If you've been watching Right Angle, you've probably been following politics long enough to have seen a couple of goat rodeos in your time and maybe a train wreck. Heck, you've probably even seen a dumpster fire. But what happens when a train wreck crashes into a dumpster fire where the goat rodeo is being held? Well, you get the first night of the Democratic National Convention held virtually, and you're not going to believe me if I try to tell you what I witnessed on Monday night, so I'm just going to show you.
There's something happening here. What it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there telling me I got to beware. Think it's time we start. Children, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. Battle lines being drawn. Nobody's right if everybody's wrong. Young people speaking their minds. Getting so much resistance from behind. We gotta stop children.
I'm sorry you had to see that, but if I had to see it, so did you. Bill, before you got into the internet punditry business, you made some television your own self. As a former producer, editor of television, what would you have told the DNC to do differently?
Well, as a conservative, I would have told him to do more of this. Let's do this interstitially, do something like this between every single segment. Make sure nobody in America misses the message. That would be my advice. Where do you start with this thing? I mean, well, just very briefly, here's where I start with it. The first time I see the American flag with the blue turned to black, the stars red, which is appropriate for the Democrats, and also red in what is that color? Kind of a teal stripes instead of the white. I don't like seeing my flag. I don't like seeing my flag kind of defaced like that. They have a perfect right to do it. They're Americans, but it's an immediate turnoff for me. And then out comes the Wizard of West Hollywood, let's just say, and spreads his majestic wings and starts singing this song while who was the galvanized corpse that was on the guitar?
Oh, I believe that was Stephen Stills, if I'm not mistaken.
I thought it was Stephen Stills' grandfather. Sings a song from the 60s and with these, it's the first time I'm aware of just being like looking at a political video and saying, what are they thinking? And have it not be a Republican video.
Yes.
Here's what it is. And when we were talking about this on the backstage show after I saw this, because we've done a lot of clips on this show, but this one really, really is out of the park, insanely important and cool. The first thing we said on the backstage show after I watched it was I said, Donald Trump has just saved himself $40 million in advertising money. All he has to do is just run this and say just say the truth. This is the Democratic Party's core demographic now. This is who the Democratic Party represents now. They represent the fist in the air. This is it. This is who they're tripling down, and it is the most effective Republican advertisement I have ever seen in my life. And I pray to God we see more and more of them as this so-called convention rolls down. This is a really, 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 really bad. Really, really bad. It's badly made. It's so over the top in terms of this kind of faux drama. It manages to offend just about everybody, I would think. I don't imagine that if you're a young, or I don't imagine if you're a black working man and you come home and you see this and you're told this is the party you need to vote for because this is how we see you. I just don't know who's left in the Democratic Party anymore, but I guess we're going to find out soon enough.
Yeah, well, it's just...
My segment's got something to do with this, although in a completely different area.
Well, I want to talk about that during your segment, but let me give you a quick follow-up. Most of the first night's convention is going to be like this for the next 3 nights as well. It looks like 2 hours worth of Zoom meetings with little interstitial things. Are Americans who have been cooped up in their own damn houses for the last 5 months now really interested in watching 2 hours of damn Zoom meetings every night?
I wasn't much interested in watching 2 hours of live meetings, to be perfectly honest with you. Yeah. But no, Scott and I talked about this on a Bill Whittle Now episode. It's like the convention is a place to generate excitement. And much of this almost all of the COVID-19 has benefited Joe Biden because it's kept him out of the public eye. It's given him an excuse to not be out on the stump. So it's been an enormous benefit to Joe Biden because I don't think Joe Biden would be the candidate if that weren't the case. But what the Democrats need, Steve, is they need some excitement. There's not a living person who's excited about Joe Biden, and maybe the only person who they could be less excited about than Joe Biden is Kamala Harris. So they need to generate some electricity among their base, and that means the kind of convention where there's rousing speeches and a lot of people are listening to them. They're not going to get either because a rousing speech requires the feedback from the crowd. Yeah. They're not going to get that. That's just not going to be there. So this actually, I think, this televised convention idea plays into Donald Trump's hand because Donald Trump's supporters are not – they're not the political grind kind of, well, many of them are obviously, but the convention is for the delegates, right? I mean, that's why they have the convention. You've worked your butt off for a year and now you get to go to, as I said before, exotic locations like mysterious Milwaukee, or Minneapolis. And I think this is going to, let me rephrase this. Not only do I think this is going to hurt them, but it is not going to help them where they need it the most. And that is in generating some kind of enthusiasm for this worst ticket I have ever seen in American politics, which is a hell of a statement when you think about it.
Well, you just made me think of something, Bill. The keynote on Monday night was delivered by Michelle Obama, who taped the thing so far in advance that she didn't know that Kamala Harris was the VP pick. And apparently President Trump had a little fun with that on Tuesday. But Scott, I want to ask you something about one thing that Michelle Obama said really stood out in my mind. And I'm going to read this to you. I pulled the quote. She said, 4 years ago, too many people chose to believe that their votes didn't matter. Maybe they were fed up. Maybe they thought the outcome wouldn't be close. Maybe the barriers felt too steep. And the voters she's talking about are the so-called Obama to Trump voters in the Northeast in states like Pennsylvania and Michigan and Wisconsin who put Donald Trump in the White House. And she's basically accusing them of being too stupid or too foolish to spend their vote wisely. And it's not quite a bitter clinger or deplorables moment, but is that the way to win back the core voters that Barack Obama lost, her husband lost, that Donald Trump seized 4 years ago?
Now, actually, if I saw most of her speech, it was too much like listening to the audio version of her book, which I tried to do as well. I gave it the old college try, but I couldn't.
Better man than I am.
I couldn't stick with it. And I don't know. It's not that she's got an unpleasant voice. It's just that she's not a narrator. Like it just takes, once she starts talking for more than a couple of sentences, she has kind of a sing-song pattern in her voice that seems a little too cloying for me. But that said, if I understood what she was saying correctly, she was really talking about the people who didn't show up to vote. And she was being critical of those people, or not critical of them, but basically saying, she gave an example. She said, in one of the closest states, of course, Donald Trump lost by 3 million popular votes, but somehow miraculously, constitutionally became president, that in one of the closest states, it came down to a difference of 2 votes per precinct. If 2 votes per precinct had averaged out across the state, gone the other way, then Hillary Clinton would have won that close state. So she's really trying to push people to show up to vote this time at great risk of their lives, of course, because like what could be more structured than a polling place on election day? I mean, if anybody, let me just say this. If you're concerned about election day and you've been to any store in the last 5 months, you're a phony. If you're concerned about election day and you've been to a street protest in the last 5 or 6 months, you're a phony. Let's be serious about it. If you can go and pick up a cluster of grapes that 6 of your neighbors have already fondled, you can show up and stand 6 feet apart and go up to the screen of the voting machine that they just cleaned after every usage, and you can cast your ballot. So in any case, so she's pushing for that. And if you don't mind, Steve, I'd like to say something about the question you asked Bill on this song that they did, the Stephen Stills version of the Crosby, Stills and Nash song, Something Happened in Here. The Democratic Party, for some reason that I fail to understand, looks to the halcyon days of this country as the late 1960s and early 1970s, when we were torn apart by debate over the Vietnam War, eventually by the Nixon administration's Watergate. They always look back to Watergate, by racial tensions, by the 1968 Democratic Convention where people were getting beaten in the streets, and all of this. These are the good times that they're always trying to call us back to remember. It's weird to me that they don't make more of a plea. Like, that song should have been from the Clinton administration. It should have been Don't Stop Believin', and they should have gone back to the Obama years when it was supposedly sweet and beautiful times for the United States. But when they want to conjure the mystic, what is Lincoln's phrase? The mystic bonds of memory, or whatever it is.
Mystic chords of memory.
Mystic chords of memory, thank you, which I lack. They always go back to the time when the country was most at each other's throats and tearing each other apart. Like, this is the people that we are. We are the people who destroy what everybody thought they loved about the United States. And I don't get that. This is not Morning in America. This is, it gets darker right before dusk.
Yeah, the Bill Clinton-style moderate Democratic Leadership Council and all that was not so bad in the 90s. That's been dead and buried for years now. And Barack Obama, the progressive wing of the Democratic Party, killed it because they think Portland right now is good times. And if you don't know what's going on in Portland, wow, just turn off the TV news and get on the internet and start reading some stuff on Twitter on what's really going on there. What caught my ear and eye at the first night of the DNC was New York Governor Andrew Cuomo talking about, in large part, his response to the coronavirus and the COVID-19 infection, which killed so many in his state. He said, with a straight face, without blushing, without then ritually disemboweling himself in shame, our way worked in New York. Now, if you look at the deaths per millions, there's only one state in the country that's worse than New York, and that was neighboring New Jersey, where a lot of New Yorkers, people who work in New York, traveled back to their homes and carried the virus around before anybody knew what was going on. If New York were a nation state, it would be among the worst in the world, if not the absolute worst in the world. It's something like over 1,700 deaths per million. Florida is down around 200 or something like that. Just outrageous exactly how bad Cuomo's response was. And the worst part is what he did to the nursing homes. And if you don't know about this, it's just an absolute crime. He took the sickest people and ordered them in with the most vulnerable people. As we all know, this is a disease that kills mostly 70 and up. And when the nursing homes pleaded for relief from Cuomo's executive order, he doubled down on it, reordered them to take in nursing homes infected people. He finally reversed himself in the middle of May, a month late, 2 months too late to save thousands of lives, maybe as many as 12,000 or 15,000 lives. It could be higher. We're still trying to figure out exactly how bad that is. But the thing that pissed me off the most, not the fact that he claimed that what he did worked in New York, not even the fact that he callously killed so many people, but that he was so easy and so casual and so unruffled in lying to the entire nation about it. Maybe the best thing you could say about it is that nobody was watching the damn thing because it was awful. And there's your right angle on that, brought to you by the members of BillWhittle.com. If you like, content like this, we need sponsors like you. So please click on over to BillWhittle.com and join. We'd love to have you aboard. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.